On the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, we shall remember them. Wow! Welcome back to the room. Let's go fast. Old Big Mek here, and it's time for Battleforce Week. However, before we get into it, today is Armistice Day, which is commemorating the end of the First World War, or the Great War, as it was known. In the United States, here where Old Big Mek is, it is Veterans Day. To those of you that have served, thank you. All right, into the video. That's right, Battleforce Week. So, for those of you that have been living under a rock and have no idea what I'm talking about, a Battleforce is Games Workshop's way of doing like a holiday special. Back in the day when Old Big Mek was not a graybeard, a Battleforce was basically 2 to 3 squads and kind of one bigger vehicle in a box, and it was what you would know today as a combat patrol or start collecting if you had started the hobby somewhere there in the middle. A Megaforce was what the Battleforce is now. They get kind of confusing with their names, but the long and the short of it is, every year at the holiday time, Games Workshop releases these ginormous boxes for a very good price compared to their standard retail prices of a boxed army. Of course, famously last year, Old Big Mek picked up this one, the Beastnaga Stampede for the Orcs, which we then built here on the channel and have now pretty much all painted. I'll throw links around, but you get the gist. This year, there are only 5 battle forces for Warhammer 40,000, which is a little funky, but they've also been releasing a lot of battle forces throughout the year, which is a little unusual. We're going to get into all of that, but what Old Big Mek does do is every year for these battle force releases, I go over each one in depth, not just like the price value breakdown. Everybody does that. I look at what you can build out of the battle forces, what kind of points you're looking at, how well they work with the combat patrol, and kind of what else you can buy to turn it into a full-fledged army with all of the options. I did a whole series on them last year. Again, I'll throw a link up. Not that you can buy those anymore, but you get my drift. So every day this week, I am going to do a video on a new battle force so that you get all 5 of them this week before they go on sale on Saturday. So we're going to start today with Imperial Knights, which is objectively the worst one, and we will get into why here in just a second. Now, one thing I do want to premise this with is yesterday, Sunday, November 10th, Games Workshop announced the pre-orders for the battle forces so that Saturday you could start buying them, but they didn't say the prices. Now, there's been a lot of videos about prices that have come out since then, especially from like Chapter Master Valourstrike, that are probably correct, especially for like UK, Euro prices. We don't actually know the US prices yet. We've seen 210, we've seen 230, we've seen 240. Honestly, that's getting really expensive. I don't know that there is that much room in people's holiday budgets. Whatever the price is, though, it is definitely going to be less than each of these kits are individually retail. The problem with that is it is very, very, very easy to find Games Workshop not at retail price. Just about every friendly local game store or online retailer sells between 10 and 20% off. Sometimes you can find deals on Amazon, for example, that are even way cheaper than that, in which case I'll tell you with a link below. No link in today's video, unfortunately. But the long and the short of it is, if the price comes out as too high, right? If it's say a 25% savings over retail on the kits, but you can find all the individual kits for 20% off, you're really only saving 5%. All right, so keep that in mind when we talk about these boxes. And also keep in mind that if the boxes are overproduced, like some of the battle forces were this year, you're going to be able to find them at a discount later, which is excellent, which we'll get into in future videos, absolutely, because there is one army in particular that has a number of boxes that go with it that is just an excellent deal. This one, however, Imperial Knights does not. Now, assuming you are getting this for the holidays, you didn't pay for it, somebody else paid for it, it's all going to be great no matter what, right? The reason why this box is not so good, it's called the Valourstrike Lance, and it is literally the exact same box as last year's, which was called the Chainbreaker Lance, except the big knight in the middle, which is the Knight Paladin / Errant kit, in this year's box, in 2024's box, only comes with the parts to make it the Paladin or the Errant. It does not come with any of the other pieces. Last year's was the full Canis Rex set. So there's like 5 or 6 different knights you can build out of that set. So you're talking about different options on the weapon arms, both ranged and close combat. There's like additional rocket launcher pod thingies for the top of the carapace and things like that. And of course, the great thing about Imperial Knights and Chaos Knights is that they're super duper easy to magnetize so that you can have all of those options. So it's great to get the boxes with all the options, super easy to put all the magnets in them. And then now when you're playing Imperial Knights, if you didn't like the way that knight played, you can swap out the weapons super easy and keep going. Because these kits are incredibly expensive, even for Games Workshop. So the fact that they literally reissued last year's box with less parts in it for more money sucks. And that is definitely one thing you will always hear, you know what I mean, on Do Red Ones Go Faster, is old Big Mek will not pull punches when GW messes something up. And this is definitely a loss. If you want to remake the same box, because it was last year's most popular box by a long shot, do it. Even if it's a higher price, because of all the inflation or whatever, really it's their excessive corporate profits that are, you know, record all-time highs. I digress. But even if they just raised the price a little bit on last year's box, I don't think you would have that many complaints. Because again, it was the most popular box by a long shot. Even being a little bit more expensive, people would be like, you know what, it's still a great deal, it's still worth it, I'm still going to add it. But taking the options away too, so that that kit can only make the Knight Paladin or the Knight Errant, it's a skis move. All right, enough waffling. Let's get into the box itself. Again, this year's is called the the Valourstrike Lance. It comes with the Knight Paladin / Errant. That's either 405 or 390 points for those two options, not including any kind of extra war gear things. Now, I don't have the Imperial Knights Codex, so it's not unlocked on my Warhammer Plus app, so I can't look at all the little individual things, which really sucks, by the way. So I don't know if there's like enhancements you can add to those or whatnot, because again, individual points is long gone, sadly. But yeah, 405 or 390 points base for the big guy to be your character. There's also 4 Armiger Warglaives. So those are the kind of about this big guys. They're a little bit bigger than Dreadnought size, I want to say. But you could build them as either Warglaives, which are 150 points each, or Helvrins, which are 140 points each. Now, all 4 of those do come with all of the options. So at least you can still magnetize the little guys, swap them back and forth between your 2 options. And again, you can magnetize the Paladin / Errant to go back and forth. What I would recommend with this is if you get this box, I would get the Canis Rex kit on its own. Because again, it's going to come with all the options. And then magnetize both of your big guys to be the same magnets. Now, what that means is you're going to be able to run both as one of the 5 variants. You'll only be able to double up, like take 2 of Paladins or Errants. But if you wanted to take like Canis Rex and one of the other options that it can be that's not in this particular set, you could do that because your magnets would go back and forth between the same 2 knights. That would be my like first thing I would do. Super awesome option. Obviously, if you bought last year's box, if you were one of the lucky few, and you wanted to expand your force, getting this box, and again, magnetizing the big guy to be the same magnets at the same polarity, I think you're still good. Again, it sucks that it's more expensive, and it sucks that it's less options, but all things considered, the Imperial Knights faction is really expensive just because the models are so big and so expensive. And getting 985 points worth of army in a box is, well, super nice. So if you wanted to make a 2,000 point army, 2 of these boxes, you're done. I personally wouldn't do that because it feels a little boring, but then again, the Imperial Knights is not very big unless you get into Forge World kits or you know, taking actual Titans, or you do a you know, the little add-on faction, the Allies, and of course the Allies are Imperial Agents. So me, that's what I would do. The Imperial Agents Battle Forces just came out this summer. I want to say July or something like that. All 3 are still available. Links down in the description. Super dirt cheap. Ordo Xenos is $175. Ordo Erectus is $182, and Ordo Malleus is $174. Taking a small allied force of Imperial agents, and any of those 3 boxes are excellent for that, with your Valourstrike Lance, you are going to get yourself about a 1,500-ish point army. Some of the boxes are a little bit less, some of the boxes are a little bit more, but just pick your favorite one to go with it, and now you're going to have options, right? You're going to be able to play the Imperial agents to go do those objectives and holding the objectives and things like that, and doing the primary missions and the secondary missions, while your knights actually, you know, beat the snot out of the other guy, and it's going to make for a much more balanced gameplay. So again, my money, if I had that kind of money, I'd get the Valourstrike Lance. I would buy a Canis Rex kit so that I could magnetize all the options on both the big guys, and then just buy my favorite Imperial Agents box. And right there, you're going to be right at around 1,900 to 2,100 points, depending on what options you take and you know, your actual force build out. But that's great because you're going to have so many options. So yeah, that's the Imperial Knights Battle Force in a nutshell. We will get to the rest of the battle forces the rest of the week. You are definitely not heard the end of the Imperial Agents boxes. And that is what the box looks like for those of you that don't know yet. That is Valourstrike Lance. All right, that's going to do it for our first episode of Battle Force 2024, talking about the Imperial Knights. Tune in the rest of the week to hear about the rest of them. I already have everything researched for the Adeptus Sororitas. I'm very exciting for that one. That is going to be tomorrow's episode, so Tuesday. Wednesday, we are going to look at the Necrons. Thursday, we're going to look at the Dark Angels, which is probably the best box. And then Friday, we will finally cover the Tau box. Now, I know that one's gotten a lot of heat online, but that one might secretly be my favorite. So yeah, if you want to see those boxes, definitely make sure you're subscribed or come back on those days to catch wind of what to do with the armies. Now, as far as Veterans Day goes, I'm going to make another little video that I'll post out separate of this one. But again, to all of you out there who have served, no matter which country you have served for, I do want to thank you for your service as a fellow veteran. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. We will catch you tomorrow for, again, Adeptus Sororitas. And until then, walk on!